Let's bring in Kunle Oluyibo, President, Network for Energy Reforms, for more on these developments in Nigeria's energy sector. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight.
Consumer Protection Network.
Okay, great, super. Oh, right, super. Now, we'll come to that MOU, signed between Nigeria and USAID, and how much impact this 115 billion would make on the energy sector, or the power sector, if you like. But let's talk about this Riot Act coming from the electricity regulator. 7 key KPIs, key performance indicators for the DISCOs. But then again, who's really to blame for the DISCOs' non-performance?
Well, thank you very much. For the first time, we are convinced that NEC is practically upscaling its capacity to move from being a toothless bull that it used to be in the past, from being, a regulator that has the capacity to bite. Because as you are aware, in the Nigerian factor, the investors in the electricity sector are seemingly stupendously rich. And they have this intimidating personality. It's like a cartel that we run away from the energy sector. And so it's always very difficult for a regulatory institution like NEC to exercise some level of regulatory assertiveness. The major problem we've had over the years is that the collapse of the first generation of distribution licensee is as a result of weakness of regulatory ecosystem. Enforcement, monitoring of any sector like the power sector, which is a critical component, is a nucleus of the economy, because energy is a major driver of the economy. And so the depth of a nation's energy determines the energy poverty of a nation determines the level of growth of poverty that the nation will witness. So looking at our population of 200 and something million, and we're generating averagely 3,500. If you do a peak, 5,800, and if we attempt to exceed 5,800, there will be a system collapse. And so it means that we've been structured into perpetual, highly unacceptable level of energy poverty. And so the regulatory institution like NEC has a serious role to play. And so 2 years ago, we've raised concern that the BPE cannot be a referee in its own game. The BPE in the telecom sector privatized the telecom sector, and they devolved the responsibility based on country-specific commitment. Every sector that we've established regulatory agencies was based on global benchmark of WTO. When you look at, when they do an appraisal like KPS we talk about, now standard organization is the warehouse of all standard. And when you look at different sector-specific ecosystem, and if they attain a particular level, you devolve the one for health to NAFDAC, and the one for electricity sector to BPE. So what we've been having in the past, before 2 years ago, is that BPE privatized. BPE is supposed to provide some similar regulatory oversight, and they were board of directors on the DISCOs. So in the daytime, they will be regulators. At night, they'll be contractors, asking for patronage. So that created, and in Nigeria, for example, I always want to use Abuja Electricity Distribution Company as an example, because Abuja, Eko, Ibadan, Ikeja, these are viable, globally enviable DISCOs that have no reason to fail. And so if the regulation, for example, is not assertive, then whatever we're talking about have all the books. So NEC, after...
Oluyibo, let me jump in here, because we don't really have much time. What are those things you may have seen as the man who represents the consumer in the energy sector that will make you say NEC has changed? Because you just said that before now they've not been able to bite.
Yes,
as journalists, we've tested the system. If you're with the telcos and you write a complaint to your provider with a copy to NCC and FCCPC, you get, response. But for NEC, it hasn't been the same. So many have said that for NEC, they seem to go to the town hall meetings, which you attend, and nothing is done, and the complaints from the consumers are getting louder. So specifically, what are those things that can, or rather that you have seen in the present constituted NEC that will make you think that we're on course?
Oh, thank you very much. I'm not speaking for NEC, but I'm speaking based on reality. Before now, we've raised issue of conflict of interest by BPE, like I tried to lay the background, that BPE cannot play the role of midwifing the privatization and equally crafting surreptitiously a role for itself in the electricity sector, we say it's not done. That the role of regulatory enforcement, monitoring and whatever should be devolved to NEC. So before the passage or the enactment of the Electricity Act, BP had an overriding influence, so to say, and conflicting with NEC. That had been devolved to NEC. And we said, look, in true federalism, there are things that within subnational that is only supposed to be done by the state. That's why we advocated for Electricity Act. Now, if you want to do generation, transmission, and distribution within the subnational, within the jurisdiction of the state Electricity Act, like Lagos this week, Wednesday, moving towards establishing, we have Enugu, Ekiti, and Imo. So if it's a gradual process. And so what we have now is that before the passage of Electricity Act, there are certain decisions that NEC will not take. If NEC take decision on dissolution of board, like it happened in Ibadan, you see them going to rush into court.
Okay,
so now the Electricity Act has further strengthening NEC, and now what we have in this order and sanction is that there have been in the past minimum remittance order. When NEC issues such remittance order, because the institutional, regulatory, and legal framework was not there strengthened enough for NEC.
Very quickly, before we go, so sorry, apologies a million times. Now, discos are being assessed on the basis of 7 KPIs. Do they have the capacity to meet this, 7 key performance indicators?
The essence of the KPIs is follow with sanction. And so it is our hope that with the new spirit, we continue to do a critique of NEC without apology, but with continuous follow-up and interface. The NEC that we had before the Electricity Act, based on our own perception, was discourse NEC. But post-Electricity Act, we're beginning to see some level of differences. And so if we have all the extant rules and there are no enforcement, we'll just move around in circles. And so that's the beauty of it. And now, just like you, we have your organization that have continued to provide the voice for us. We'll appreciate this continued level of synergy, so that we'll continue to put whoever is in occupying such position as chairman, NEC, and discourse on their toes.
Well, we're hoping that will stay on this, because you actually, in the course of your conversation, you named some discos, saying that these are viable discos. And out of 11, you were able to name 4. Well, I know that the others are struggling.
The real economic, what I'm trying to say, the real economic zone in Nigeria, you take Kano, you take Lagos, you take Port Harcourt, they are about 4 states that really drives the economy. So we need to get it right with electricity, even starting from this state.
Absolutely.
And that will cascade to spread to other parts of Nigeria.
Okay, Oluyibo, it's a fine conversation we've just had, and I'm hoping that I will do this again. And thanks for all you're doing for consumers.
Thank you.